Okay, so today's lesson is about adding and subtracting fractions. And remember, we want to have a positive attitude and say, we love fractions. Technically, you don't have to love them. You just don't have to hate them. They didn't do anything to you. So again, I always like to think of things in terms of food or money. It just kind of helps me work a little bit better. It makes me happy too. So here's some things. You don't have to worry about writing these down, but here's some things that we want to make sure you're comfortable with fractions. So you need to know how to identify the numerator and the denominator. And again, you don't have to write this down. You need to know how to simplify a fraction. We did that in 2.1. You need to know how to change a mixed number to an improper fraction and back again, meaning taking an improper fraction and taking it to a mixed number. And we did a little bit of that in 2.2. And you need to know how to find the least common denominator, which you also know as the least common multiple. We just use, we call it the denominator because we're dealing with fractions. So let's get into some fun adding and subtracting. Here we go. So we love these kind of fractions because, why? Because they have a common denominator. We don't have to do much. So here we go. When they have the same denominator, we're really just going to focus on the numerator. So it's going to be 5 minus 2 over 8. When we know what 5 minus 2 is, it's 3/8. And you're like, oops, I pressed the button a little too quick. So we know that it's 3/8. But you're in 7th grade now, and this is what takes it to that next level. Because I know you guys are like, I already know how to add and subtract fractions with common and uncommon denominators, but we're dealing with negative numbers and negative fractions as well. So our same rules will apply as they did for the integer chapter, chapter 1. So let's take a look at these two fractions. 4/9 minus 7/9. So the first thing you want to do is look at the denominator. And if they're the same, remember your main focus is going to be your numerators. But I'm subtracting, and so I'm going to go ahead and do my add a line, change the sign, or keep, change, whichever works for you. I think from now on we're going to try to use add a line, change the sign. So I'm going to add a line and change the sign. So remember, we don't have to worry about our denominator, so I'm just going to go ahead and write 9 over here, and then it's going to be 4 plus a negative 7. So remember, when they're different signs, you subtract and take the sign of the higher number, the one that's furthest away from 0. So here we go. 7 minus 4 is 3, and then it would be a negative because we have the negative 7 is further away from 0 than 4. So that's it. Oh, whoa. What do I need to do, Miss Peterson?
Simplify.
Yeah, I almost forgot. Because what number is in common between the top and the bottom? And that's a 3. So I can divide. If you want to draw these little arrows, you can, or these arches. So I'm going to divide by 3. And remember, we want to keep that as negative sign here. So this is going to be negative 1. And then 9 divided by 3 is going to be 3. Am I done now, Miss Peterson?
There you go.
All right, here we go. You can box it or circle it. There you go. So you're just left with negative 1/3. Okay, Miss Peterson's going to show you some additional examples.
All right, so now we're going to look at unlike denominators. We rewrite the fractions with the LCDs, always the first thing to remember. So when I'm looking, I've got 2/3 and 1/6. And remember, we want to start with an example, something that we can see. Okay, we can look and we can see that we know that 3 goes into 6. So that right there can be our common denominator. We can rewrite this as, let's change 2/3 and make that into a 6th. So how can I get from 3 to 6? Again, I multiply by 2. So I have to do the same thing with the top. Don't forget, it's 2 times 2, which is 4/6. And now I'm just going to add the 1/6. 4/6 plus 1/6. Notice I have the same denominator. I keep my 6 on the bottom. And I just do 4 plus 1. And that should be easy for all of us. Our answer is going to be 5/6. So another example. Remember, I would want to simplify that if I could, but 5/6 is already simplified. Looking at some negative fractions, we have 1/2 minus 7/10. Can I remove? Okay, so first of all, we want to remember, well, 2 goes into 10, so 10 can be my least common denominator here. And I want to make 1/2 into tenths. So I'm going to change it by multiplying it by 5. And if I do it to the bottom, I have to do it to the top. And now I have 5 over 10 minus 7 over 10. I'm just going to rewrite it again with the 5 minus 7 on the top over 10. And I'm just going to quickly change that so we can look at 5 minus. Remember what we do? We add a line, change the sign. You can kind of see that that's a different color there just to make it stand out. We want to add a line, change the sign every time, being consistent. 5 plus negative 7, you subtract the integer. 7 minus 5 is 2. We keep the sign of the higher number. Again, 7 is further from 0 than 5, so it's negative 2 over 10. And here they're both even, so what do I have to do? I'm going to divide by, I'm going to look at that copycat fraction, that magic one that we were talking about, 2 over 2, and end up with 1 over 5. And again, pull this negative sign over, and the fraction is still negative 1 over 5. And just add, why can't life be easy? Just remember, not everything is easy. We've got to work hard for everything we want. So fractions are going to be one of those things. Okay, so we're going back. Here's another example with common denominators. I'm spotting out right away. This is 13. This is 13. Common denominators, I'm stoked. I just get to write right away 13. And over the top, negative 11 plus 8. Again, so they're different signs subtract. So it's 11 minus 8, which is 3, over 13. And I keep the sign of the higher number, which is 11. And so it equals, sorry, that doesn't look awesome, but it does say negative 3 over 13. And I look, can I simplify? No, 3 and 13 are both prime. So there's my answer. Again, it says negative 3. Next example, we've got, this is going to be a more complicated one. Negative 5 and 6/7 plus 3 and 2/7. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start out by making them into improper fractions. So I'm going to multiply and add. 7 times 5 is 35, plus 6 is 41.
And are you just kind of keeping that negative off to the side?
I'm just keeping the negative. I always move that last. That's kind of my habit. I take the negative down after I'm done.
It's a good habit.
I'm going to add 7 times 3 plus 2. So 7 times 3 is 21, plus 2 is 23. 23 over 7. So here's the thing. Let's not get stuck here because these are bigger numbers. It's negative and a positive. Let's first look. We've got 7s. They're common denominators. So let's put them all over 7. Now I have negative 41 plus 23. And again, it's the same rules. I'm going to take, and I'm going to show up here my work. It's going to be 41 minus 23 because they're different signs, so we subtract. Borrow, it's 11 minus 3 is 8. And 3 minus 2 is 1. So it's going to be 18 over, and remember it's 41 is bigger than 23, so I'm going to keep the negative sign and put the denominator back as 7. So is this my final answer? No. I've got to put this back into a mixed number. So I'm going to come down here and show my work. I've got to go 7 into 18. 7 goes into 18 2 times, which is 14. And there's 4 left over. So remember, this is my whole number. There are 4 pieces left over, and there are still 7 pieces in my pie. So my answer is going to be 2 and 4/7, but I can't forget my negative sign. So bring that negative sign down, and the whole thing is negative 2 and 4/7. There's my answer.
Yeah, and just to remind some of the things that we talked about before we changed the fraction, improper fraction, we top dog in the house. So the 18 would go inside the house, and then 7's knocking at the door. Another student likes to say timber, where the fraction is just falling over like a tree would fall over if you were cutting it. So whichever way works for you, just know that the numerator goes inside the house.
So looking at a couple more examples, we've got 7/18 plus negative 5/12. Oh no, I have 18s and 12s. I have to sit and think here. Okay, I've got to find a common denominator. So I'm going to look at my multiples. I like to look at my biggest number first. It's normally easier for me to see if the smaller number goes into one of these multiples. 18 is going to get bigger faster, so it'll be easier to see if the smaller number will go in. I'm going to use up here, I think 18, right? 18 times 1 is 18. 18 times 2 is 36. Oh wait, I don't even have to go further than that. Doesn't 12 go into 36? I'm pretty sure it's 12 times 3. So we're going to sit here and we're going to go, where is it at? There it is. So I'm going to change this by, I feel like this is going to be squished. 7/18. And remember, I'm multiplying 18 by 2, so to multiply 7 by 2. And I'm going to get 14/36. And I've got negative 5/12, don't forget that. And 12 times 3, so 5 times 3, it's going to be negative 15/12. I'm sorry, not 12. 36, I had to multiply. It's 12 times 3. Okay, so again, I've got 14/36 plus negative 15/36. So 14 plus negative 15. Remember that I've got negative and a positive. Subtract 15 minus 14 is just 1. I keep the sign of the higher number, just my 15. And I get negative 1/36 as my answer. So looking at, I think, the last example, we've got 4 minus 7/8. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different because, there you go. I need to start by doing 4/1. And now I've got 1 as a denominator and 8 as a denominator, which hopefully we can see I can multiply up and get 1 to be 8. Just multiply by 8. If I do it to the bottom, I have to do it to the top. So 4 times 8 is 32, and it's 32/8. Now I'm going to take 32/8, and I'm going to go minus 7/8. I've got 32 minus 7/8. And luckily here, it's just our simple subtraction. 32 minus 7 is going to be 25. 25/8. So remember, this is not my final answer. I want to put it into a mixed number. So putting the top dog in the house, 25 goes inside and that 8 goes on the outside. 8 goes into 25 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24. Subtract to get 1. And again, this is my whole number. There are 3 whole pizzas with 1 piece left over out of the 8 that come in a pie. So it's 3 1/8. So we're going to go ahead and set you up with a lot of practice and make sure to ask questions if you have any. Thank you.